Hi friends, I can't believe it, but it's not only my 100th video, but my channel also just hit 300,000 subscribers. And such a momentous occasion demands an equally momentous video. So, who better talk about than the absolute coolest dudes in the setting and my absolute favorite unit in all of Warhammer, the Kasrkin, baby! Whoa! You may know I'm a huge Kasrkin simp, but why huge Kasrkin simp? Well, because they're the best. Anyways, thank you for watching and thank you to all my awesome patrons. Just kidding, today I will talk about my favorite little guys and hopefully I can Kasrkin pill some of you to recognize the true coolest elite soldiers of 40k. But before that, while we're speaking of favorites, everyone's favorite sponsor, Tabletop Stronghold, is back to sponsor this video. Super tough, easy to swap steel trays, and 3 different sizes. What's not to love? The signature Mag Case 2.0 has modular steel trays so you can easily reconfigure your case to fit any of your miniature carrying needs, as well as safely secure your minis with magnets. Plus, the case is strong enough to hold 250 pounds so you can rest assured that your minis will be safe. For a while, the standard has been foam cases, but I found that foam strips paints off minis, takes longer to pack and remove minis, and is less space efficient than a mag case. Plus, with the Mag Case 2.0, you can look at all your pretty toys through an acrylic door. Additionally, Tabletop Stronghold has some great MDF terrain perfect for Warhammer and other tabletop games. So, for the best value, check out the Mag Case and Terrain Bundle, and then for even more value, use my code CRACK25 for 25% off your order. There's always free shipping to the US, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and most of the EU, so get yourself a Mag Case 2.0 today. Anyways, the Kasrkin are the elite shock troopers Acadia, and they're just regular unaugmented humans who often get sent on near impossible Space Marine level missions, and they get shit done. The Kasrkin are named for the indomitable fortress cities of Acadia called Khazars. Recruits are chosen from the most promising Acadian white shields to receive special training. Although, after the tragic destruction of Acadia, promising recruits from other regiments are sometimes inducted into the Kasrkin ranks. These recruits, however, must work hard to prove their mettle and earn the Caudicate Sea Eagle tattoo that all Acadian Kasrkin are given as proof of their unrivaled skill. In addition to the standard schooling and field training every Acadian youth receives, Kasrkin recruits are put through rigorous tests to prove themselves worthy of the prestigious role. Their training is equal, if not greater than the training of the elite Scholar Progenium, and in addition to their schooling, Kasrkin recruits are also thrust into the harshest war zones to fight alongside regular Acadian shock troops and gain practical experience before they're a true stormtrooper. As such, the Kasrkin are some of the best, if not the best, regular human warriors. No, scratch that. The Kasrkin are straight up the best unaugmented human warriors in the entire setting. On average, they're the most well-trained, skillful, and well-regarded human soldiers in the Imperium. People argue that Scions are more elite due to their progenium training. However, I would argue that Kasrkin edge them out simply based on the fact that their practical Cadian upbringing means that they learn in actual battlefield scenarios, which is said to be better than the intense but insular progenias. In addition, they have superior tactical flexibility, teamwork, and adaptability in comparison to the Tempestus Scion's strict doctrines and heavy psycho-indoctrination. This means that they're on average more versatile, skilled in actual combat scenarios, tactically adept, and more inspirational figures on the battlefield. Plus, nearly every single time they're mentioned, they're outright stated to be equal or superior to Scions and any other unaugmented human soldiers. And this isn't even a dig on Scions or anything. Those guys are badass too. Kasrkin are just that good. In terms of skill, I'd even say that they edge out the Sisters of Battle. The Sisters may have better armor and faith magic, but when it comes down to pure skill and competence, the Kasrkin are unmatched. And in some ways, having worse equipment forces them to truly excel. The Kasrkin can't afford to haphazardly put themselves in dangerous positions. They can't afford to miss their shots. While the Emperor is busy protecting others, the Kasrkin lighten the load by being the best. In fact, the Kasrkin are debatably more competent and elite than even the Space Marines. Of course, on a physical basis, a normal human has no chance of exceeding the transhuman Space Marines, but in terms of pure skill and tactical prowess, I'd say that the Kasrkin are on par, if not better in some cases. Where the Marines are largely heroic super soldiers stomping into combat, eating bullets and kicking ass, the Kasrkin don't have the grace of imperfections. They don't have the luxury of inefficiency. Every single action from the the Kasrkin has to be calculated and perfect, otherwise they would surely perish. Therefore, the Kasrkin are often more precise, more efficient, and more tactical than most other warriors. With all that said, though, not having equipment as good as Space Marines is hardly saying much, and the Kasrkin's equipment is still pretty dang good. It's just not Space Marine good. Each Kasrkin is equipped with a suit of carapace armor and a Hellgun. Carapace armor is one of the best armors you can get without going into power armor territory. Made of overlapping plates of armaplast and reinforced ceramite, the Kasrkin's carapace armor is able to protect them from small arms fire, some bolt fire, and in lucky cases, even glancing hits from nastier weapons like heavy bolters or plasma. Their armor also has their iconic Cadian forest camo, which looks badass. And on the other side, the ouchie that hurt side of things, Kasrkin Hellguns are also quite good. These are lasguns that have reinforced barrels, more sophisticated lenses, and a large backpack power cell that allows them to be far stronger than the standard lasgun and have some of the best armor penetration of any infantry weapon. Or at least it used to! Come on, GW, just give us back our Hellgun armor pen. Please, oh please! If you did, maybe I'd call it the far less cool Hotshot Las like you want me to. For reference, the Hellguns used to have more AP than a plasma and would straight up bypass power armor. A low strength, high AP weapon would also be a interesting and relatively unique thing for the Guard. Like even AP-2 would be nice. But anyways, the Hellgun is said to be able to easily punch through nearly any armor. Which, armor pen is a regular lasgun's main weakness, so being able to punch through armor and then las explode the funny fella inside is actually quite nice and allows a Kasrkin to take on a wide variety of enemies, from hordes of foul Xenos to heavily armored traitors. In addition to the increased firepower, the large power pack and sophisticated cooling cells allow Hellguns to shoot far more shots before needing to be reloaded and to sustain fire for longer bursts. However, this comes at the cost of more complicated maintenance. But, fortunately, these are Kasrkin we're talking about. They can face any challenge, including gun maintenance. Since they've trained with these weapons since childhood, every Kasrkin has an intimate knowledge of his or her weapon and can repair the complex mechanisms or even fully rebuild their guns in extreme cases. Furthermore, Cadian Hellguns are typically fitted with advanced rangefinders that can interface with helmet HUDs, magic space laser suppressors, and gyro stabilizers to further enhance their effectiveness. And when the Hellgun isn't enough, the Kasrkin also have access to a wide variety of special weapons. They can basically take any of the Imperium's special weapons depending on their needs. But good weapons don't matter if you can't shoot them. So, luckily, the Kasrkin can shoot them. Again, these are the most elite soldiers of the Imperium, so of course they can aim. The Kasrkin in general are arguably the best marksmen of the Imperium, barring exceptional examples like named characters and assassins of course. As mentioned before, Kasrkin have to be absolutely perfect in order to pull off the insane missions they're sent on. As such, they can't really afford to aura farm hip fire a bolt gun while missiles explode off their super armor. Therefore, Kasrkin are cold efficient killers. They deploy onto battlefields and then immediately John Wick blast enemies with pinpoint accuracy, often clearing objectives before the enemy can even have time to react. Their accuracy is so great that it's said that they could hit an eyeball at 1 mile and a clean headshot at 2. Badass! Anyways though, expanding on their combat effectiveness, Kasrkin typically operate in small, close-knit squads. Most Kasrkin squads have worked together since recruitment, which for Acadian means that these are basically lifelong friends and together they bonded through hardship. As such, they fully trust their squad mates and can operate in unmatched harmony. And even in cases where Kasrkin squads must induct new members or be made of remnants of old squads, the Kasrkin within still wholly trust their teammates since they know that anyone who earns the honor of being Kasrkin is a capable and dependable warrior. In fact, the trust they have within each other, as well as their extreme adaptability, is perhaps their greatest strength. Kasrkin have very little ego with their peers, and it's not uncommon for any member of the squad to temporarily take command at a moment's notice when it's pertinent. For example, sergeants will allow their orders to be overridden if one of the Kasrkin makes a new tactical call. This is also helped by the fact that every Kasrkin is as gifted in tactics and strategy as they are in good old laser blasting aliens. And adding on to their extreme flexibility, their extreme training and experience, Kasrkin also instinctively know the best way to approach nearly any combat scenario, and when they can't, they're very quick to learn and adapt to new conditions or tools. Thus, single Kasrkin squads can and have single-handedly turned the tide of battles. They are trusted with any mission and will accept any mission without hesitation. It's quite a common occurrence for Kasrkin squads to take on suicide missions and then go on to miss the suicide part of the suicide mission. And even outside Akkadian regiments, Kasrkin are highly sought after by other regiments, planetary governors, inquisitors, rogue traders, and basically any other important high-ranking Imperial. Many file requests for Kasrkin squads, but they must be deemed worthy of receiving Kasrkin aid by Akkadian High Command. Like, imagine telling an Inquisitor that they're not good enough to hang out with the Kasrkin, and then the Inquisitor is like, yeah, probably valid, rather than having a planet-ending crash out at getting rejected from the friend group. Anyways, though, in battle, Kasrkin are deployed in various ways, all to great effect, be it scouting ahead to infiltrate enemy positions and stage critical ambushes, crashing through enemy lines and chimeras, rapid airdropping from Valkyries, or even just marching in with the rest of the army. It's all badass. And then, outside of combat, the Kasrkin are also notable for being relatively cool dudes. For people who basically exclusively train for combat, study the art of combat, and then pray that they could be good at combat, the Kasrkin are often surprisingly down to earth. While the Scions are famously begrudged as uppity glory boys, the Kasrkin are nearly universally revered, and the morale of entire regiments is often bolstered by the presence of their Kasrkin squads. Furthermore, unlike the often strange, prep school socially inept Scions, the Kasrkin are known to joke around with each other and have legitimate friendships within their squad and regiment. This is helped by the fact that they are permanent fixtures of regiments rather than auxiliaries like the Scions. And finally, for this video, I'll cap it off by sharing some famous insano feats of some cool Kasrkin, as well as indulging in some of my cool tabletop stories. By the way, if it feels like I'm glazing the Kasrkin too much, then look me in the eyes. I am. What did you expect clicking on this video titled Kasrkin, my favorite dudes ever? Plus, you can't really glaze a Kasrkin, quote-unquote, too much, because they are simply the best. Anyways, rapid fire. A squad of Kasrkin fought a demon host with no questions asked. Cervantes Glaive murders a bunch of Chaos Space Marines on Cadia. Banjevrian is like the coolest dude ever. He kills a bunch of Plague Marines, a billion cultists, climbed on a fucking dreadnought with a broken arm and shot it in its face slit, and then later helped banish a greater demon with the boys. Badass. And then, perhaps the greatest Kasrkin honor is having the Ultra Chad Color Sergeant Kell amongst their ranks. Or at least used to be, I don't know exactly how that works out. And then, on tabletop, oh boy, my Kasrkin are fucking badass. I don't know if it's because I intentionally try to make them do cool shit, or if it's just the Emperor shining upon me, but my Kasrkin have frequently pulled off some crazy-ass feats. They've one-shot countless Marine squads, perfect grenaded Fulgrim to death, dropped in and single-handedly banished a rampaging Greater Demon, they've alpha-struck Baneblades and lived to tell the tale. My Sergeant sword-fought Bury Anderson and came out on top. Even in Kill Team with their famously bad rules, my Kasrkin tend to punch above their weight, just like in lore. Perhaps my favorite moment was when my humble recon trooper took on an assault intercessor in melee, punched him in the face, proceeded to roll more feel no pains than I've ever seen for Cadia stands, and then survived with one wound, allowing my sergeant to plasma blast a silly Marine and secure the winning objective. Badass. The Kasrkin are just so cool to me. In a way, they're the epitome of the Imperial Guard fantasy. They're just regular humans who pull off crazy feats against enemies far bigger and scarier than themselves. Because of this, they're able to be both hyper-competent elites and scrappy underdogs who triumphantly defy the odds with cunning and skill. I also just simply love their aesthetic. I think they have some of the coolest armor in fiction. It's both superbly simple and incredibly cool. Plus, it being an up-armored version of the regular shock troop armor just tickles my brain. And the aesthetic of tactical, relatively normal human soldiers fighting crazy-ass demons and aliens is like the coolest thing ever. Hell, it's one of the reasons I dislike the Tactical Primaris. I preferred when Marines were the glorious space knights going stupid style in the coolest way possible, while dudes like the Kasrkin and Raptors broke the 40k mold and acted like tactical operators rather than zealously sword bashing the nearest green guy. And some may say the Kasrkin are merry fills. And to that I say, who the hell cares? I hate when people criticize 40k for having Mary Sues and overpowered characters because it literally does not matter most of the time. If a story isn't centered around a character having to face challenges to get stronger, then it doesn't matter that they start off super badass and strong. Like, sure, if the plot is that this guy needs to train to get better to defeat a threat or something, and then he's instantly the strongest dude ever in like 4.5 minutes, that's dumb. But if the story is literally this badass dude has to be badass and cool, then it's cool that they're badass and cool. And by golly, the Kasrkin are badass and cool. Anyways, though, I want to sincerely thank everyone for helping to get my channel to 300,000 subscribers. It still feels unreal that I get to make cool videos for you guys to enjoy. You guys are all badass and cool, and the Kazr to my kin. Thank you for allowing me to indulge in glazing my favorite little dudes for a whole video. Anyways, thank you for watching, and thank you to all my epic patrons. Your support means a lot to me. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing to all your Kasrkin buddies. Thanks. I can't wait for all the Space Marine glazers to yell at me for saying the Kasrkin are better than their special little boys. Brother, in a glaze-off, I'd might as well be Krispy Kreme.